Anybody who doesn't know our guest, David Childress, I hadn't been paying attention. He has been huge on the local music scene and beyond, really, for years. And, one of the things that always amazed me about you, David, is you play a lot in the Carolinas, of course, but every time I turn around, you're playing in Ohio or someplace like that. So it does definitely go much further than just right here in the greater Charlotte area. I say greater Charlotte area, you call Mount Holly home.
That's right.
And you've just come out with a new album, you and your band, and it's called Run Skeleton Run. Tell us a little bit about how this new album, which I think is your 6th album, if I
well, actually, it's probably about number 15, but the record label says it's a 6th one. I guess it's cause maybe it's just got my name on it.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of more records than that.
Yeah, a lot of different lineups, Modern Don Juans, the Serpents, and different. You've done some stuff with your son, and his name has appeared on.
Oh,
he's
been very.
Well, he's been your drummer for years and years. Yeah.
Yeah, and an advisor too, and
okay.
Sort of a foil, an anti-hero that I deal with.
Yes.
To a good end, usually. We've always fought. I mean, ever since. He was a kid, we'd wrestle and punch and everything. It's kind of like that musically, but it works a lot of times.
There you go. Tell us a little bit about how Run Skeleton Run came together.
Well, I was sitting at home one day. I remember I had gone down somewhere in the east, above Albemarle, to a prison that morning, and to do some kind of hearing with a prisoner there. This was back in 2015. It was June 1st, as a matter of fact. I come home, I'm exhausted. I sit back in the easy chair, the phone rings, and Bob Crawford is on the line. He's like, "Would you like to do another record with Don Dixon?" I'm like, "Of course I would like to do that."
Yeah.
We did Room 23 back in about 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just filled me in. He's like, I want to do a record. We're going to go up to Mitch Easter's in Kernersville. And, this will take a while, but, we want to get a publicist and radio promoter and all that. And I'm like, well, sure. Let's do it. Because I'd keep making records anyway, but it's so nice to have, people that are willing to back me and take me into these places to work with some of the best that there are. And I consider
Dixon,
both those guys, Dixon and Easter, to be that.
And you mentioned Bob Crawford, of course, from the Avett Brothers, and I think a couple of the Avetts showed up to help record.
Yeah, that was Scott jumped in on it, and somebody had the idea. It wasn't me. I was delighted when I heard Scott wanted to be involved. I think Dale Shoemaker may have suggested getting Scott to do like a weird poem at some point. And I happen to have a poem that's pretty weird. It's on what the record opens up with. Mm-hmm. But Scott took it a little further and did some banjo parts and some harmony parts. Also had Jacob Sharp from Mipso helping us out.
Another Carolina-based band that's been doing some great things and getting a lot of attention.
They're like one of my favorite bands right now.
Yeah.
And they've added a drummer and they've changed their sound and they've darkened it kind of, and it's really worth listening to. Yeah.
This album is on Ramseur Records. You've got a long relationship with Dolph, right?
Yeah, Dolph and I go back. I don't know if I can exactly remember. I think I met him at the Evening Muse before it was what it is now. Mm-hmm. He was there with a Scottish folk singer, Martin Stevenson, whom a lot of us around here know. And Dolph, next thing I knew, was coming to my house with a little field recording unit, like the Lomaxes. And we actually made a record using that called Blessed in an Unusual Way.
I remember that one, yeah.
Which, I love that record. I don't listen to my records much, but that's one, it's kind of like somebody else made it. And I guess because I was drinking a lot back in those days, maybe I don't remember everything that went on. That's the truth, Mm-hmm. Which I don't do it at all now.
Right, so yeah.
I still can't remember it.
Well, there you go. Dolph Ramseur Records, of course, one of the forces that really helped the Avetts get their start.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, Dolph and I went our separate ways at one time because he had me, he was working with me, but it was kind of hopeless. And here come these boys, that are filling up rooms, and people are going nuts over them, and they're good. I mean, they're really good, and they're good looking. And, I just told him at some point, you need to just go on, concentrate on them. I'm going to take care of myself. And but we always stayed friends.
Mm-hmm.
And, Dolph has a saying, kill them with kindness. And I've learned that from him. But he used that to deal with me a lot of times.
Gotcha. This new album is getting lots of attention. I know local radio, Carolina radio, is playing it a lot. NCW, WSGE, we're playing it here. Other places are playing it as well, looking for it to start climbing up on the Americana charts, that sort of thing. And that's gotten some doors open for you. I know you've recently made 2 recordings at places that are syndicated, and they really get the news out there. Mountain Stage and Wood Songs. Tell us a little bit about those events.
Well, the Mountain Stage we did last Sunday, and this was my 3rd time. It's Robert's 3rd time going on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a phone call about 3 weeks before the show. It was Don Dixon and Larry Gross were at Don's house, and somebody had canceled, and they said, this is like 11:30 or midnight, and I'm like, do you want to come up here? And I said, of course I do. And everybody, we went. I took the band, except we had Sue Foley, great blues player. Yep. She went and played guitar with us. Nothing against the other guys I played with, David Niblock and Dale Shoemaker. But while she was in town and available, because she lives in Austin, we took her with us too. Now the Wood Song, that popped up real fast too. And I went up there with Linda, my wife, and they put us up in a very nice hotel, very nice. And I went and did the show with the Rail Splitters. It's a bluegrass band out of Boulder, Colorado. That was an interesting experience too. We were all just basically on the stage, and he would interview us, one at a time. And that was just a real quick, enjoyable hour that went by.
And you can go online and look for these just by searching for Mountain Stage or Wood Songs Old Time Radio Hour. And you can find these performances. I think they videotaped them as well, don't they?
Yeah, they did. We were actually before a live audience. This was Monday night when I was in Lexington. But it'd probably be about 9 weeks before it's out.
Before it's out on there? Yeah.
I don't quite understand all that was going on there. That guy, Michael Johnson, he's very dynamic and has a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, he's been by here a couple of times in the past, and I've gotten to meet him. He is an interesting person indeed. So those are 2 things to look for: the Mountain Stage and the Wood Songs. Let's talk some more, but before we talk some more, let's play a song or 2.
I'll be happy to. This is a pretty new song. I'm going to play, and that's not on my new record, but I just feel like playing it. It's called The Edge of Town. I grew up on the edge of town, where the stars come out when the sun goes down, and the woods and the fields were all around, and the wind blew through with a quiet sound. There on the edge of town, we would play in the scrubby pine, rode our bikes on the power line, swimming and fishing all the time. We hid the dreams no one could find. There on the edge of town. Now the town's still there, but the woods are gone. It's a Walmart where the wild things roam, where a boy and a girl could be alone. There on the edge of town. Blood in my nose and my best friends too. fighting over nothing like a couple darn fools. Fell in love with the plumber's daughter, and I got baptized in the river water there on the edge of town. Yeah, I took it for granted, and that's a shame. I thought that things would stay the same. All I knew, we were having fun, and I never did see how the end would come there on the edge of town. Now the town's still there, but the woods are gone. It's all Walmart where the wild things roam, where a boy and a girl could be alone there on the edge of town.
David Childers live in our studios with a song that's that you could only hear here because it's not out there anywhere else yet. I really like that song. I think it really appealed to me because you grew up in the same town you still live in. I did the same thing. This town right here, Boiling Springs, and there's something about a sense of place.
That's right.
And seeing the changes over time. Also, one of the things that came to mind listening to that song is a theme, if I can, in your music. Seems to me that one of the things that kind of constantly runs through your music is sort of the battle between angels and devils.
Mm-hmm.
So, could you talk a little bit about where that comes from? That dichotomy
Well, it's just living. That's. Yeah. That's, you read the Bible. That's like some of the earliest stories I was exposed to, and you probably too.
Oh, yeah.
But even all the myths and all it's good and evil, and
Mm-hmm.
it's devils and angels. And fortunately, I've got a lot more angels in my life, considerably more angels now. I think because of just growing up and being lucky enough to live as long as I have. But that's a battle that's always going on,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it's why we have churches and psychiatrists and Cursillo retreats and all kind of ways that people have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a struggle between right and wrong, and it's hard a lot of times to tell which is the right side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
I
thus
think that's
the
just
struggle.
something everybody's universal. You
Right.
You feel it, I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that walks on this planet feels it. But I think we are all spiritual creatures too. People can argue with me about that. I have no way of proving it. I don't. It's just something I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
Yeah.
I don't see the harm in, trying to think about how your actions affect other people. And I think I do that better than I used to.
And I think that's well reflected in your music. But dare I say you're a bit of a Renaissance man. You're not just a songwriter and a musician and a performer, but you also write poetry, which, of course, you take a song, you take the music away, you got a poem. It's poetry, but you also paint, and you've got some really interesting paintings.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you found them interesting. I spend a lot of time with a paintbrush in my hand. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems sometimes it's kind of obsessive, and one thing I enjoy it. It's just really fun. The other thing is, people buy them from me, and which is kind of what I'm, get my groceries with. And
Well, there you go.
so, but it's I'm not trained, and I do work at it though. I've done some paintings that I can look at and say that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not like this Edward Hopper piece I'm looking at here, but it's just what it is. My son's a lot better artist than I am. Robert Childers is, I think he and I went to the Van Gogh Museum. We were doing a tour over in Holland back in, I think, 2007. And when we got back, both of us, we didn't say a whole lot, but, we went through the whole place, and we got back, and within a week or so, he was painting. And then I was painting within about 6 months.
Wow.
Because we were inspired.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great story.
And I had a lot of scrap wood laying around I had to get rid of.
Well, that too. We're going to talk about some shows coming up that you're going to be a part of all over the Carolinas. We'll talk about a few of those. But how about another song?
I'm going to do one from the record because you kind of got me thinking about it. There's a song of thanks called A Thanks to All. To all you fine, fair ladies who grace me with your charms, I thank you for the comfort I found lying in your arms long ago, long ago. To all my friends and comrades with whom I shared the road, I thank you for your willingness to help me bear my load long ago, long ago. I could have wound up dying young in some hidden place and never known these peaceful days filled with amazing grace. And thanks to the teachers who did the best they could until they finally realized I was just no good long ago, long ago. And thanks to the judges who did not send me down and all the cops who let me pass through their little town long ago, long ago. Well, I could have wound up dying young in some hidden place and never known these peaceful days filled with amazing grace. And thanks to all who gave me work and helped me earn my pay, to find a place to call my own upon this mortal plane long ago, long ago. And thanks to the preachers who saw me in the pew and welcomed me with love and light like Jesus said to do long ago, long ago. Well, I could have wound up dying young in some hidden place and never known these peaceful days filled with amazing grace.
David Childers live in the studio playing a tune that you can find on the new album called Run Skeleton Run, and it's out on Ramsewer Records. We're talking about the dichotomy, or that's too big of a word. We're talking about that struggle between angels and demons in your music. Another thing that I seem to have observed over the years of following your music and your career is that sometimes you're on stage with a full band, plugged in, electrified, rocking and rolling, and other times you're sitting back, acoustic guitar, coffee house, and you're just at home in either of those places. So, sometimes you're a rock and roller and sometimes you're a folkie. Talk a little bit about the difference there.
Well, I don't know if there is much difference. Just depends on the moment and what's available and, how much we're getting paid and, is it enough for a full band to go in, or there's a lot of things that go into that, and it's often more dictated by economics than anything. Yeah. But I like doing it anyway. I love to play with a band. I mean, it's so fun. But I also like doing it like this. Yeah. Because this is how I started out, and it took years to get anybody that would play with me. And I'm very fortunate the people I have right now. They're just very reliable. They're very dedicated. There's no rock stars. They're there for the music,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I like to work those guys as much as I can. Sometimes I may overwork them, but
You know, another thing I've noticed is that the notoriety that you have here on the local music scene and your ability to get in certain venues, you share it. You bring other people in sometimes to play with you in a coffee house or a small venue and kind of help bring their careers along as well.
Well, I learned that from people who brought me in, people like Dalton Thomas, people like Gigi Dover, Bill Noonan.
Yeah.
You know, they opened up doors and shared things with me, and I've tried to do that with other people.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Doesn't always work out, but, you know, there's that saying like, no good deed goes unpunished, but, you know, I like to take that chance with people.
Another thing that pops up in your music is I'm going to go out on a limb and say you have a great interest in history. You're a history buff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You've got a song on the new album that talks about something that I'm highly interested in, and I actually just found this out today, so I'm going to have to go listen to that song. But it talks about the flood of 1916.
Oh, yeah, yeah. A lady from Charlotte named Mary Struble Deary. She very lively lady. She's a writer. She was an advertising person up in Chicago, moved down here several years ago. And she approached me. Somebody told her to get a hold of me because she had a poem about the flood that she thought I should make a song of.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, send it to me. Let me see. I read it. I'm like, come on over. She came over one day and we talked about it. And I took this, you know, poem. It was probably 4 pages long and condensed it down to 4 verses.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot. I mean, she taught me, you know, about this thing that happened right in my backyard, basically. Because actually, I remember the lady that Linda and I bought her home from telling us about being alive during that flood and how people had ferried over to where we live, which was a high up on top of a hill.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in that same house. We still live there. But, you know, I started connecting all these together. But there was this train. They, as I understand it, down at Belmont, they put a train out on a trestle to stop, maybe keep the trestle from falling.
Oh, wow.
But unfortunately, it didn't, and the train went down. Right. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Down in the bottom of the Belmont Ford.
Wow.
And then 17, I've heard 17, 9. There's a park there now. It's a really nice little park that's right on the river as you cross 74.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They got historical markers. And you can also see some bald eagles there if you go there.
Yeah, it's a nice spot. I've not been there, but I've seen people, I guess, on Facebook that have, and they've taken pictures, and it looks really nice.
I didn't really know about it.
Yeah.
A boy from New York came down here and took me out.
The irony there. I think the next song we're going to sing, we talked about this before we went live. I was reminded of this song recently. I didn't go to Merle Fest this year, but I did watch some videos of some bands up there. And the Avett Brothers, I was watching them perform a set on the stage, and they played one of your songs. And The Prettiest Thing. And I think you said you could play that one for us today.
Yeah, I played it. I played this the other night on a Wood song, and my guitar was pretty out of tune. Michael was very nice about it then. It was a New Year's Day in the Seaside Bar. Was a special on PBR. The ocean roared outside the door. No one but us and some hardcore drinkers lost in the stormy day. How blue is the blue of your eyes against the skies of gray. Do you remember what we talked about? I just remember your face. The prettiest thing that I have ever seen. It must have been a wrong turn that I took in Cedar Falls. Maybe Kansas City, Lord, I don't know. We just kept on rolling. It was too late to turn around. We ran out of road in Arizona. Do you remember what we talked about? I just remember your face, the prettiest thing that I have ever seen. And you left me in that deep hole in Gastonia with your mother. What you still had left of self-respect. I know you tried to tell me that's when I was a-drinking, and I could not find the words to win you back. Do you remember what we talked about? I just remember your face, the prettiest thing that I have ever seen. Well, you changed your mind about me, and I sure understand. Years of miles were not what you deserve. I heard that you got married, and he is a decent man, although some say he's a little bit too reserved. Do you remember what we talked about? I just remember your face, prettiest thing that I have ever seen. Do you remember what we talked about? I just remember your face, prettiest thing that I have ever seen.
David Childers live in the studio, playing one for me there that I had requested, Prettiest Thing. I really do like that song. I find myself, I refrain today, but when I hear that come on, I usually sing out loud
Good.
to that song. I love that song.
It has that. I'm glad people like that song.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about some gigs you got coming up if people want to go out and see you live. You're playing this Friday at Apex, North Carolina.
Yeah, we're playing in a theater down there, something the city puts on.
Yeah. And then coming up, we were talking about this earlier as well, on the 28th, which I guess is the weekend holiday, officially kicking in summer and all that kind of stuff, at the Whitewater Center, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, along with Shovels and Rope and a couple other bands as well. Yeah,
we go on at 4. There's a band at 6. I think Shovels and Rope's at 8. And we like going out there anyway. We've been lucky enough to play there for the last several years, and we always look forward to it. Yeah, but I have them on the bill. You know, it's like one of our favorite bands, too.
Yeah. I'm going to try to make it out to that one. Any other shows? I mean, I know people can go to your website and they can find all of the lineup.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, if you want to come up to Pomeroy, Ohio on Saturday.
Exactly, always
on
Ohio.
The beautiful Ohio River, we're going to have a big time there.
Yeah.
But one thing I do a lot I like is that Robert, the drummer, and Corey Dudley, stand-up bass player, and I play over at a place called Brawley's Beverage on Park Road in Charlotte. I don't know if I should mention that at Gardner Webb or not. But
it's okay.
I'm sure none of the students here would go to a place that sold alcohol. But we do that about once a month, and I really like that because we're exploring things. Like we're doing a lot of covers and older songs. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you never quite know what's going to come out of it. And there's, right now I'm just kind of drawing a blank, but it seems like things are popping up. They are. And just go online. I go every week, I look and see, what have I got to do. Where are you supposed to be tomorrow, right? Yeah, in the next few days. Just go online, davidchilders.com, I believe is the website. Yeah, it'll have it on there. And it will have all that information on there for you, and lots of information about David as well. Kind of a fascinating, as I said earlier, bit of a Renaissance guy. And you can see some of his paintings as well. So, David, thanks so much for coming by. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Always. I hope it's not so long before I come back. I hope not. It was a lot of fun. We're getting back to our regular programming now. Here's Bonnie Raitt.